Overtoun House sits in West Dunbartonshire in Scotland. It started life as a farmhouse, but James White purchased the property in 1859 with plans to demolish the farmhouse and build a country retreat. He hired architect James Smith to handle the project, and construction began in 1860. The house was complete by 1863, but before construction finished, Smith died suddenly at the age of 55. Smith was father to Madeline Smith, who was accused of murder in 1857. After her ex-lover had blackmailed her, Madeline was spotted buying arsenic shortly before said ex-lover was found dead from arsenic poisoning. Madeline was ultimately found not guilty, but the trial took its toll on the family, and public opinion was not friendly to Madeline, who ultimately had to change her name and relocate to the States. The stress of his daughter's trial is said to have contributed to Smith's premature death, the first unfortunate event to be linked to Overtoun House. The house was finished without Smith in 1863, although the White family had already been living there for a year by that point. James White died in 1884, and the house passed to his son John, although he wouldn't do anything with the house until his mother passed away in 1891. John then moved in and set to work on his plans to expand. He acquired more land, but the plots of land he now owned were separated by water, so he had a bridge constructed to link them. John White died in 1908, and his grieving widow continued to live at the house until she died herself in 1931. The couple had no children, so the house passed to a more distant relative, Douglas White, who gave the house to the people of Dunbarton in 1938. The house then underwent many different uses, including a long stint as a maternity hospital. In 1978, it came under the control of a religious group known as the Spire Fellowship, before passing to a missionary group called Youth with a Mission in 1981. Youth with a Mission would operate out of Overtoun House until the Christian group left in 1994. Later that year, a 32-year-old man named Kevin Moy threw his 2-week-old son from Overtoun Bridge before trying to climb over the parapet and throw himself to his death too. He was dragged back to safety by his wife and taken to Overtoun House, where he attempted to cut his own wrists before he was arrested by police. Moy's son would die in hospital the next day. It would later be revealed that Kevin Moy had been suffering from delusions that he was the Antichrist, and that his son was Satan. He was convinced his son would infect humanity with a world-ending virus, and was convinced that he needed to kill him to save the world. Moy would ultimately be found not guilty of the murder, as he was found to have been mentally ill at the time of the crime. But, despite the many tragic coincidences in Overtoun's orbit, the thing that would shoot the house and its adjoining bridge to worldwide notoriety would be something much, much more bizarre. In 2005, came the first online reports that multiple dogs had leapt to their deaths from Overtoun Bridge, and a year later, a Daily Mail article brought this to much wider attention. The details on this phenomenon vary wildly, with reported numbers being anywhere from 50 to 600 dogs. But what all sources do agree on is this: dogs who cross the bridge often grow agitated and leap up over the wall of the bridge, falling 50 feet to the embankment below. Some have said that a scent must be attracting the dogs, while others think there's a more supernatural explanation, such as the ghost of the grieving Lady Overtoun, who is now known to locals as the White Lady. But what is the truth? So, when discussing what's actually going on with the dog suicides at Overtoun Bridge, I think there's one key question that we need to start with. Are the dogs jumping? Or are they falling? By that, I mean, are the dogs leaping over the wall with intent? Or do they jump up, lose their footing, scramble, and fall? After all, you have to think about what the world looks like from a dog's point of view. The wall of the bridge is as tall as they are, if not taller. We can look over the wall and see the fall below, but a dog, of course, cannot. So how can they know that there is a fall on the other side? From the point of view of a dog, the wall may look like a raised surface, one they attempt to jump up expecting firm footing, and it's only after they've landed that they discover the wall quickly tapers off into a 50-foot drop. This question has been more or less answered by the current owner of Overtoun House, Bob Hill, who said in 2019, "The dogs catch the scent of mink, pine martens, or some other mammal, and then they jump up on the wall of the bridge, and because it's tapered, they will just topple over." Hill has reportedly witnessed many of these dog suicides, and his eyewitness account certainly seems to correspond with the idea that the dogs are falling unintentionally. So the next question is, why do these dogs jump up to the wall at all? Well, as you heard from Bob Hill, it's widely speculated that a scent is causing the dogs to jump. Mink has long been said to be the source of this scent, although for a long time locals refuted this, saying that there were no mink in the area. But the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds and Wildlife, however, has since proven that mink do live in the area. And when an animal behaviour expert called David Sands decided to test whether the mink might be responsible, the results were fairly conclusive. Sands arranged for a small number of dogs to be released in a field in which 3 different animal scents had been placed. Out of 8 dogs, 7 immediately headed for the scent of mink, while 1 dog was attracted to the scent of squirrel. While that's not the most scientific or the most tightly controlled experiment, it does seem to indicate that there could be something to the mink theory, and, combined with all the other information we have on this case, I think we can say with some certainty that, barring any new information coming to light, the mink did it. What about the White Lady, the grieving spirit of Lady Overtoun that is said to walk the grounds of Overtoun House? Well, back to Bob Hill, who explained in a 2014 documentary that he met a group of men who claimed to be responsible for the story of the White Lady. When they were kids, they worked at the quarry, Hill said, and they decided on Halloween that they were going to scare all of their mates, so they arranged to put a wire from the top of the tower down to this side of the bridge, and they rigged up on a pulley a white sheet. We can't know for certain that the story truly originated with these boys. I suspect it's been floating around for much longer than that. But it is, of course, just a story. An urban legend about a creepy old house that spread around as these stories often do. And Kevin Moy? Well, in a way it would be nicer to believe that there was something supernatural going on there. But unfortunately, he was, of course, just a man suffering from delusional episodes, and that proved to be devastating. There's little information about what happened to Moy after his trial, but hopefully he's been given sufficient support and treatment and is doing okay. All in all, Overtoun House is a great example of the power of human narratives. We're naturally attracted to stories and to finding patterns and meaning where perhaps no such meaning exists. Overtoun House has been struck by multiple unfortunate coincidences and tragedies, but the curse, the haunting, that's just our human minds trying to piece together the unrelated and weave it into a narrative. We're human. It's what we do.